High-level officials from the two Koreas met for the first time today since their official face-to-face meeting back in January to discuss the upcoming inter-Korean summit set for next month between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And to tell us more about the meeting as well as recent developments in regards to North Korea, Professor Shin Sang-hyup from Kyung Hee University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Great to be here.
All right, so today high-level officials from the two Koreas met in the village of Panmunjeom, and it's been decided that the two leaders of the two Koreas will meet on April 27th. Now, what came out of today's meeting?
Well, first of all, the atmosphere at the meeting was very, very good. And they produced quite the productive outcomes. First of all, they set the date for the summit meeting, April 27th. And the places, it will be the South Korean side in the Panmunjeom compound.
Okay.
And also they will have the working level talks for protocols and the secret services for the leaders, and then how to report the events. And well, these are the outcomes made by the both high officials at today's meeting.
Now, were there any discussions over the issue of denuclearization in regards to North Korea?
Not very much at this meeting, but I think it will be one of the very important issues at the agenda for the summit meeting planned in the April, because as we know very well, the USA government has made it very clear that denuclearization will be the prerequisite for the successful outcome at the summit meeting between the North Korea and the United States. So, excuse me, at the summit meeting between two Korean leaders, well, particularly President Moon Jae-in will just try to explain the needs of the denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula, which is the support for the stance of the USA government toward this issue. Of course, in this context, the South Korean government will contact the USA government to persuade the North Korean side stance about this issue. Well, so the summit meeting between two Korean leaders planned in April will be a kind of some stepping stone for the successful outcomes at the summit meeting between USA President Trump and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
So we have that working level talks between the two Koreas coming up next Wednesday.
Right.
We have about a month to go until the actual summit between President Moon and Kim Jong-un. So what are some of the tasks at hand?
Right now, I mean, definitely at the summit meeting between two Korean leaders, along with the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, they will discuss how to build permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. Of course, these two issues are directly related. By achieving denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, we can achieve the permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. But as I already explained, there must be big differences on the stance about this issue between USA and North Korea without narrowing down the different views about this issue between USA and North Korea. I think, practically speaking, it will be very difficult for us to see the very successful outcome at the summit meeting between USA and North Korea. So definitely, how to build a permanent the peace on the Korean Peninsula will be a kind of some clue persuading the USA side and North Korean side about the denuclearization issue on the Korean Peninsula.
Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited Beijing to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. What impact do you think this meeting between Xi and Kim will have on the upcoming inter-Korean summit?
Well, I think it gives a little bit negative impact on the success at the summit between two Korean leaders. Why? Because it was reported that China and North Korean leaders, they agreed on so-called the gradual denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which is really different stance from the USA government.
Right.
In 2002 and 2005, this approach was taken by the two partners, the USA and North Korea. At the time, at the final stage, the North Korean government did not allow USA and the international nuclear, the organization IAEA, to monitor and check how much they stop. I mean, whether the North Koreans stop the nuclear programs or not. So at the time, USA could not do anything because simply because North Korean government did not allow it. So certainly, as Mr. President, Mr. Trump has emphasized several times already, definitely the USA will not take this approach, which was agreed by the Chinese leader and North Korean leader. So the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, when he will have a summit meeting with President Jae-in, he will stick to this stance.
Right, gradual denuclearization.
Gradual denuclearization. That means that President Moon Jae-in could have difficult time to persuade him, to change their stance toward this issue, which will be very important for the successful outcome at the summit meeting between USA and North Korea.
Now, meanwhile, top Chinese diplomat, Politburo member Yang Jiechi came to Seoul today and will be briefing President Moon tomorrow about the Beijing talks between Xi and Kim. Tell us more about this.
Well, definitely the Chinese government also, the concern about responses from the Korea and USA. But just before the summit meeting, was reported, about 30 minutes before, they, give a notice to Korean government about this summit meeting. And then they sent the Yang Jiechi, he's the member of the China's 25-member, the Politburo. He's quite high top of the diplomat, definitely. And then by explaining the outcomes and then the details about the summit meeting between Chinese leader and then North Korean leader, they want to maintain the channel with the South Korean government. That will be a kind of some way, a stepping stone, the first step for having a solution to the North Korean nuclear crisis. But the point is that maybe we have to think about responses of Russia and Japan. Well, as we know very well, Japanese Prime Minister is planned to have a summit meeting with the Trump before the summit meeting between USA and North Korea.
Right.
And then it is not, not yet the Russian government officially, they announced that they do not have any plan to meeting with the North Korean leader or North Korean high government officials. But Russia want to join into this procedures. So definitely maybe it can be a kind of some first step to returning to the six-party talks, which was the main tool to discuss about the solution for the North Korean nuclear crisis.
Now, what's interesting, though, is that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been actively kind of reaching out to other countries like China, South Korea, and also inviting President Trump for a summit. So what do you think are North Korea's real intentions behind all this?
Well, he seems to take some initiatives in changing the atmosphere. As you know very well, since the U.S. and then United Nations started to implement the economic sanctions against North Korea, along with many countries around the world, North Korea has faced very huge difficulties. Well, it is expected that the difficulties could be more serious as time goes on. And the relations with China, which was one of the strongest allies for them, well, it was very bad because China joined to the pressure, the policy sanctions against North Korea along with the USA, simply because that China should have to protect their national interests.
Right.
But by having a summit meeting, by propose to have a summit meeting and then have a real summit meeting with China, definitely they seem to have some momentum changing the atmosphere. I think it will be very important as well for the future summit meeting with the USA President, Mr. Trump, because by having a summit meeting with Xi Jinping, the leader of China, And then it means that China is back on North Korean side. That means that they will have some more advantageous position at the meeting with the President Trump. So this is the kind of the thoughts or wish they want to get from the measures taken, activities, actions taken by them right now.
So like you said, with China in the room now, you think possibly a four-way dialogue between the two Koreas and the U.S. and China quite possible for happening? No?
Not very much,
Okay.
because as I already explained before, Russia and Japan have, had the huge interest in the situations happening in North Korea and South Korea. So the Japan has been really concerned about so-called Japan passing. But after the report about the summit meeting between the Chinese leader and North Korean leader, Japan got surprised because actually they have been the outsiders during the whole this process. So definitely Japan actually did not want to see this situation continued for a while. So when if anyone wants to have some four-party talks, Japan will respond very immediately, and they want to join to this talk. So that means, as I already explained, six-party talks will be restarted. Because I did not explain the responses from Russia, but Russia has at the stake at the Korean issues, definitely. So, and then for North Korea, Russia is second, the strongest ally over the last several decades. So definitely the possibility of having a six-party talks is much larger than four-party talks. Yes.
All right. Well, we know that Chinese President Xi Jinping called President Trump to brief about the meeting with Kim Jong-un, and Trump did say in his Twitter account that he looks forward to meeting Kim Jong-un, but those sanctions and maximum pressure will stay in place.
Yes, I think so, because Mr. Trump has emphasized the 2 points regarding the summit meeting or with the North Korean leader or North Korean nuclear crisis. The first one is that until the North Korea change their stance officially, the pressure, economic sanctions will be continued. And then secondly, at the meeting with North Korean leader, the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula, denuclearization of North Korea is kind of some prerequisite for the successful outcomes at the summit meeting. So they do not change it, and by nominating so-called hardliners among the government officials in USA, like John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and then Pompeo, who is the new Secretary of State. They are hardliners, definitely. That means that hardliners means in this, about this issue, they will have the same idea, opinion with the President Trump. That means denuclearization is #1 requirement for having a summit meeting, successful summit meeting. Second one is that the pressure, the policy, economic sanctions will be continued until North Korea change. So definitely the possibility to have a successful outcome at the summit meeting between the USA President and North Korean leader planned in May has been a little bit reduced. I'm really concerned about the outcomes of the summit meeting between two leaders in May.
I think for now we have to keep our eyes on when Kim Jong-un will actually respond with a date or any details on when he's going to be meeting with President Trump.
I think it will. We have to wait for a while, because in April, as we discussed before, there will be a summit meeting between North and South Korea. Of course, on the part of the USA, they will be able to contact with North Korea directly, but considering their policy toward North Korea over the several years, they prefer to contact North Korea indirectly. Indirectly means that through South Korean president, South Korean government, they want to transfer what their thought about this summit meeting to North Korea. So definitely through the summit meeting between two Korean leaders, maybe they will try to adjust some differences about these issues between, with North Korea. So we have to wait for a while, I think.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight today.
My pleasure.